even the concept of absolute truth is blocked, or consciousness is covered by too much affinity for the temporary. Now, lots of people have too much affinity for the temporary. That's all they have, or primarily that's what they have. And therefore, to understand things, they often go into the metaphor. This means that. Kurukshetra means this, and the Pandavas means that, and interpretation by that kind of method. When Krishna is speaking Bhagavad Gita to Arjuna, indirect meanings is not necessary. He's just explaining. There is a place, Kurukshetra, there are the 5 brothers, the Pandavas, and this history is this history. However, King Prachini Barishat, unlike his sons were more elevated than their father. He's something of a devotee, not just because he's born in an exalted family, but demonstrated by how he received this elaborate instruction of Narada Muni, although indirect. So the whole indirect story is narrated, and then the meaning of the indirect story is explained, and King gets it. And he follows the example of his exalted sons. That is, he leaves his kingdom and leaves his fruitive activities and strive in a very focused way to achieve spiritual perfection. In other words, beneath his affinity for the temporary, there's devotion. And therefore, he moved in that direction through Narada's grace. So we can understand that Narada understood his audience. He spoke one way to his sons, and he spoke another way to the father. It's something similar, different, but similar to what happened with Dhruva's father. Dhruva's father was too much attached, in his case, not to fruitive activities specifically, but to his beautiful second queen. Too much attached, his consciousness was blocked. Too much attachment results in consciousness being blocked. And so, when Narada went to speak with Dhruva's father, he was very simple. He just reassured his father, no need to worry. Your son is just fine. Not only he's just fine, he'll be back soon. And not only he'll be back soon, he'll come back perfected soul. So don't be in such anxiety. He didn't excuse the conduct of his Dhruva's father, Utanapada, but he was pacifying him so that he could carry on his duties as king. And oh, come on. Okay, he could carry on his duties as king. And sure enough, 6 months later, Dhruva came back. Sure enough, 6 months later, Dhruva came back. And he came back as Narada said he would come back. So, small point, but Narada knows his audiences and speaks according to his audience, and he's recognizing King Prachini Barishat's being stuck, covered by fruitive intention superseding his natural bhakti. Go back in time. And going back in time, every one of the kings that descended from Dhruva one after the next, after the next, after the next, after the next, in the line of Dhruva. They were all delivered by Narada. Narada has a long lifetime, spans over one day Brahma, long lifetime. And he is very, very expert at delivering bhakti message according to the person. So he's done this. Now here's somebody in the line of Dhruva that's too much attached. Too much attached. And so he visits him and instructs accordingly. So the instruction, the instruction is metaphorical initially. And after doing the metaphor, he circles back and breaks down item by item by item the metaphor. This explanation in the metaphor can help one understand such and such. And he goes through the whole metaphor. And King Prachini Parishat gets it. Too much attachment blocks one's consciousness. So the metaphor is one who has too much attachment. The title of the chapter is the characteristics of King Paranjana, and the metaphorical King Paranjana is King Prachini Parishat. Too much attached. Too much attached. Now, in the King Paranjana story, it's not he's too much attached to fruitive activities. He's too much attached to his wife, to the queen. But what's the purpose of fruitive activities? Anyways, it's, doing something to get something. It's fruitive. Something auspicious is done to get something I want. So in other words, in short, in simple form, it's on the material platform. I found it nice, interesting, yesterday evening, some discussion about detachment, and then some further discussion in the private sessions about detachment. What does it mean? And what's, one of the persons was saying, I don't want to deny my humanness. So if emotions that I feel towards something is to be, anesthetized, he didn't use that word, then I'm losing my humanness, and I don't want to do that. So what to do? What's detachment? Narada was not encouraging, give up your kingdom. Narada was not encouraging, give up your queen. Narada was not encouraging, give up your sons, or just become numb and have no feeling for any of these things. That's not what Narada's encouraging. It's not what Bhakti is encouraging. So it's not what Narada was encouraging. So what's too much attachment? There, as you know, there's a nice teaching in Bhagavatam, and there's a nice teaching given by Rupa Goswami about attachment. Anasaktasya vishayan yatarham upayunjitaha nirbandha Krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagya uchyate. Anybody in the room knows that verse? You can just say the Sanskrit besides Paramarupa. It starts Anasaktasya. Anasaktasya. Don't know the verse. What does asakti mean? Asakti means attachment. You put the prefix Anasaktasya means without attachment. And attachment to what? Vishaya. What's Vishaya? Yeah. Vishaya means senses enjoying sense objects. Right from Bhagavad Gita. Vishaya vinivartante niraharasya dehinam raso varjam rasopyasya Kram drishtva nivartate. Vishaya. When Vishaya vinivartante. Nirahara shadehinam. For those who are dehinam, those who are embodied, it's very difficult to deal with Vishaya, tendency for enjoying objects of the senses. Vishaya. So now back to the Vishaya means. Back to Rupa Goswami's verse. Anasaktasya Vishayan, without attachment to sense enjoyment. That's the preamble. That's the do not. Attachment to Vishaya. Then the next line. Vishaya vinivar, no. Anasaktasya Vishayan yatarham, curious word, upa yunjitaha. Anasaktasya Vishayan yatarham upayunjitaha. Yatarham, this Prabhupada's translation is according to suitability. That is to say, a householder has a different suitability than a sannyasi. And then amongst householders, there are different suitabilities. So from person to person, and ashram to ashram, and so forth and so on, there's different suitabilities where you can accept things not for sense gratification, not with attachment to sense gratification, but you can accept things as is suitable for you, not with sense gratification in mind or purpose. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. What does Sambandha mean? Relationship, right? Sambandha. Krishna Sambandhe. Those things that have relationship with Krishna. Anasaktasya Vishayan yatarham upayunjataha. Nirbandha Krishna Sambandhe. There's no bondage by accepting those things that are in relation to Krishna and engaging them in service to Krishna, with the precondition where one is not attached to sense gratification. So it's detachment. You utilize things in Krishna's service, but not for the purpose of gratifying an attachment desire. Now, that's it's a little mysterious, because supposing one doesn't understand that principle, what do? You give things up. You negate things. According to the other definition by Rupa Goswami, just giving things up that are in relation to Hari Sambandha Vastuna, that's not proper. It's Palgu Vairagya. It's false renunciation or detachment. So it's not a matter of giving things. So this person last night, I don't want to numb my feelings towards persons that I feel attachment to. Not that it's not recommended even. You become a stone. You have feelings. So how to redirect feelings of attachment so that they're liberating rather than binding. Without a spiritual conception, they're binding. With a spiritual conception, they're liberating. Or the potential is liberating, because they're directed to transcendence. They're directed to the Supreme, or Krishna's parts and parcels in their relationship with the Supreme, and so on. It's slippery. Like, okay, so now I have a license. I have a license to get stuff and just say it's for Krishna. But really, behind the saying it's for Krishna, it's not for Krishna. It's all about something else. Fulfilling a desire, an attachment to the concept that I'm meant to enjoy objects. And here's a license. It's slippery, it's tricky. So the Bhakti principle that Narada is going to be teaching over several chapters to King Pachini Bari, who gets it in the end, is undue attachment is very detrimental. And what's due attachment? So there's a nice verse in Uddhava Gita, 11th canto of the Bhagavatam, where Krishna is advising Uddhava, who is a householder, how to conduct his life, where similar as Rupa Goswami's verse, things are accepted. Recognizing that by accepting things, a tendency is there to become attached to those things. Attached to those things means enjoy those things. It's okay. Okay. Enjoy those things. Enjoy those things. Tendency. So when recognizes that I'm accepting things, at the same time I have a tendency to try to be the enjoyer of those things, that's a source of bondage. And I know that. And I accept that there'll be some bondage or so covering of consciousness. But that the reality of my situation is, in my case, these are things that I feel I need. Although I recognize on a philosophical platform, the soul doesn't need these things. But that's a position of my consciousness at the present moment. And so I accept, recognizing my consciousness is not going to be fully liberated until I can become free from the attachment or become detached from the concept of enjoying these things. Now, the option is not to become numb. The option is to offer things to Krishna. And when Krishna consciousness is not matured, then the dovetail principle results in one gets wet. One becomes influenced by attachment to the temporary. So what's really important is, well, there's several things. Sadhu Sangha is really important. And then in Sadhu Sangha, continuing to hear and apply the principle of attachment to Krishna, detachment from matter. Continue to apply and improve in attachment to Krishna, detachment from matter. As I'm moving through life, accepting things, knowing that my accepting of things has a mix. It's offering those things to Krishna, and thinking of myself as the enjoyer of those things. And so the conditioned life goes on. So the hope, or the principle that relieves one of that conditioning, is bhakti. Because bhakti has the power to dissolve all that. And say it negatively, nothing else has the power to dissolve all that. One of the rules of, just like yesterday morning, one of the rules of any spiritual teaching is the principle of detachment that comes through knowledge. Jnana Vairagya. Say it again. In all spiritual teachings, when they're actually spiritual teachings, the principle of Jnana Vairagya is there. I spent some time immersion yesterday in Bhakti Pragya Keshava Swami, Prabhupada's sannyas guru, wrote a book, Beyond Nirvana. And in that Beyond Nirvana book, one of the things he's doing is explaining Buddhism, because that's planning to include that in this presentation on what our acharyas say about Buddha's teachings. So what his teaching of voidism is one section, and how to become free from material entanglement, how to get to that state of nirvana. And then the title of the book is Beyond Nirvana, because it's bhakti. But the Buddhist conception of nirvana, the method of achieving it, is copied by Shankaracharya, or it's just another version of the same. So in Shankaracharya, in the process of cultivation of knowledge, jnana, vairagya, moksha, for both of them, it requires not just nodding your head and saying yes to the temporary nature of matter and things like that. It's being so absorbed in knowledge that there's consummate detachment, and that means just give things up and call it, for Shankara, it's call it false, but there's something true. Brahman Satya Jagan Mithya. And for Buddha, nothing is real, and what's true is nothing is real. Or nothingness, or nasti, as we heard yesterday. Asti. It doesn't exist. And the method is profound immersion in knowledge leads to profound immersion in knowledge leads to becoming free from undue attachment. It's a necessity. And the undue attachment is, what's on the other end of that is going to be different for different teachings. But it's imperative. So how for us, it's the bhakti process also has knowledge, but knowledge in the bhakti process is a subset or a byproduct of bhakti. Say the opposite. Without bhakti, knowledge doesn't have the capacity to deliver one. What has the power to deliver one? Bhakti has the power to deliver one. What is that deliverance? It's dissolving the affinity for enjoying matter. So when you dissolve the affinity for enjoying matter, what's left? If you're a Buddhist, it's nothingness. And if you're a Shankara follower, it's, absorption in Brahman, merging in Brahman. And if you're a devotee, it's your eternal relationship with Krishna. So I'll say it again. In all three cases, knowledge is imperative. Not just notional, but profound absorption in knowledge, where it's how you live, it's the place of consciousness that you see through, the lens that you experience life through. And what's on the other side is going to be different. But it's a non-replaceable item. So for devotees, our business is not cultivation of knowledge. For devotees, our business is cultivation of bhakti. And that the knowledge is a byproduct. So we read and we're studying, just like right now, we're discussing different ideologies and the role of knowledge in our ideology. So it's not that when Narada visited the palace of King Prachini Parishat, he touched him with a magic wand, and all of a sudden the king was bhakti filled. He had an approach to help him become free from the covering, so he could then get knowledge that it became matured and fixed and his full life, as with the Prachetas, in devotion to the personality of Godhead. That's where knowledge is complete. The other way, knowledge is incomplete without that. One can have, let's say it more specifically, knowledge of that Buddha is recommending is incomplete. Knowledge that Shankara is recommending is incomplete. Knowledge that Bhakti has as its subset is complete. What makes it complete as opposed to incomplete? Absorption in the personality of Godhead. How do you get absorption in the personality of Godhead? Well, we hear, but the hearing is not just to gather knowledge. The hearing is affinity for restoring the affinity for loving service. That's the purpose of the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, or the knowledge of the Bhagavatamrita knowledge. It's awakening the affinity for serving. So I'm going to pick on Radha for a moment because she likes to be picked on. Radha likes playing violin. And it's very nice. She liked playing violin. I was watching your face as you were playing violin during Jai Radha Madhava. Your face showed your intent. You're very concentrated. And the facial expression didn't show, laughter and joy and I'm having fun, although I'm sure that there was some joy, but it's a kind of concentration on that act of playing violin. Now, there's many people in the world who are very proficient in musical instruments, including violin, and they're not Krishna conscious. They may be really good at music. That's nice. The gift that comes from Krishna. So our task is taking those things that we have an affinity for, whatever the list may be for each of us, and how to Krishnaize those things. How to make, while we're doing the thing that we really like to do, consciousness of Krishna is closer. And what's the medium? Bhakti. You do it for Krishna. Not just offer the result, here's some nice music. I mean, just some appreciation. To be born in a devotee family and being given the opportunity to do what you did last night. How many kids born in this world get that opportunity? Like, wow. And then so the real effectiveness is not just learn a nice melody and sing the nice melody and carry the tune and voice inflection here and there, and people go, wow, you sing very nicely. That's nice, but more effective, superlatively effective, is proportionate to the devotion with which the activity is done. The playing of the violin or the singing in front of a group of... The number of students started to grow real fast. But it was nice to see some young Western people sitting there along with all the Indian students, just listening happily to kirtan and participating in the kirtan. Nice. Supremely beneficial. And then that's going to go to different stages, beneficial for them. But a big part of what makes it beneficial for them is the degree of the kirtanir or the speaker or the cook or the whatever in absorption, and Krishna is meant to be pleased by this. Here's an offering unto Krishna. That is, then spirit, Krishna consciousness is being conveyed through sound better. Not just information or just not musicality, but Krishna consciousness. The activity is absolute. And our consciousness may not be so absolute. So our consciousness is proportionate to our doing the things that we do for Krishna. So now back to Canto 4, Chapter 25. The way that Prabhupada ends the purport, it's very nice. How Narada Muni indirectly introduced the Bhakti Yoga system to King Prachini Barshat is very interestingly described in this 25th chapter. So, nice chapter. We'll continue tomorrow morning. Comments? Speak and he'll adjust.
I have a hard time when I'm like cooking for Krishna. I have a hard time when I'm offering it to think that it's for him. I mean, I know it's for him, but it's hard to think to like actually mean that it's for him and that we're cooking for him.
That's honest. And so, what to do? You cultivate. I've been listening to Prabhupada's lectures on Chapter 16. Chapter 16 is Divine and Demoniac. I mentioned it yesterday evening. I'll say it again. Prabhupada in Hawaii, speaking about divine and demoniac qualities, saying that the phrase is sampat, Daivi sampat, and asura sampat. Sampat, he indicates, means characteristics. And in the asura sampat, Prabhupada explains, these are below the human form of life. Animals have these sampats also. And he explains, so we're all born in that condition. Now, if to develop divine qualities, it takes cultivation. You have to. It's choosing. Krishna will reciprocate. So it's choosing, and then under training, guidance, wisdom, etc., we cultivate. It takes some time to cultivate. But if you just by being honest means that you're conscious, I'm not there yet. Supposing somebody's not conscious that they're not there yet, they think it's just the external thing, and that's bhakti. You do the behavior, you ring a bell and say things, make some sounds, and that's bhakti. It's the tip of the iceberg part of bhakti, but there's the consciousness behind the behavior. So that you're understanding the consciousness isn't there. That means, you're being honest, you're being thoughtful, and the assessment is, I'm not there yet. So now what to do? Which is your question. You cultivate. You have knowledge, and you strive to act in knowledge. And however long that takes, that's how long it takes. But know for certain that the bhakti potency, or bhakti tendency, or bhakti nature is already there. It's just covered over. What's it covered over with? Ignorance. And lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes and lifetimes of doing things in a separate from Krishna consciousness. I'm doing things because it gratifies. I want to eat, so I make something nice because I like to eat nice things. And now I'm supposed to say it's meant for Krishna, but it's not, and that's not my consciousness. cultivating Krishna, the Daivi Sampad requires cultivation. Practice. Striving by right means, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Yoga Kshema Vahamyaham. You continue to cultivate. That's what you should do. Continue to be honest and recognize I'm not there yet. This is my consciousness. It's not that. It's I'm trying to be a good girl and do the things that you're supposed to do. I follow the rules because you're supposed to follow the rules. I don't have a problem following these rules, at least. I may have some problem with some other rules, but I don't have a problem with these rules. But my consciousness isn't there. So you continue to follow the rules. That's the Dharma. And inwardly you cultivate Mam Ekam Sharanam. And I'm not there yet, but I cultivate it. And knowing that it's natural. It's of the soul. It's already there. So I do the outside things in a standard manner. And now I'm not there yet with the inside thing. But it's natural. Love is natural. It's something we want. And real love is on that spiritual platform where it's for Krishna. So I'm not there yet. You cultivate. It's not just notional, it's transcendental. There's a notion, and the notion doesn't connect with your heart yet. It's okay. And I could suggest one of the ways that will also help you get there is some of the things that you do and you feel more connected with. This is an offering unto Krishna, whatever that might be. You do more of that. Like playing violin for Krishna. Or whatever it is that it is more synergy within you that this is for Krishna and I feel it. You do a bunch of that. So the Krishna connection gets strengthened, and then from that Krishna connection strengthened, it may become easier in some other area of activity where it's not, the Krishna connection isn't so strong. The behavior is okay, but the Krishna connection isn't strong yet. It'll strengthen all areas of life by doing those things that you like very much, and you feel especially that the Krishna connection is stronger. And that's two things. Now, the third thing is the best panacea is the holy name. And the way in which the holy name is, the consciousness of chanting the holy name is especially nice, important in transformation. And it's a lifetime's worth of work. Keep going. Anyone else?
Maharaj, I have a question. So, when you're saying about becoming attached to things, I was thinking more about various skills one can acquire, academic skill and other skills. And when I think that some things can be used in Krishna's service, like in this material world, we can use so many things.
Yes.
In service of Krishna. So where is that, like how to define that limit of over endeavoring versus inspired to use a lot of skills or learnings in service of Krishna or tools?
Where to draw the line is different for different persons. So, Anasa, yeah, yatarham, according to suitability. And what's that? So the measure of what is suitable for you, as opposed to somebody else, that something else may be suitable for somebody else, is your absorption in Krishna. At least some of the things that you do, if it's circuit overload if you're so distracted by learning things and enjoying learning things that the purpose behind the things that you're learning is obscured. The remembrance of Krishna is obscured. That's subtle, but that's a litmus test. So, let's say a newer devotee than you, they may want to limit the things that they do and just do them very nicely, just do them very nicely. And then as you become a little more experienced, your question is, where's the boundary? It's the same boundary. And you may just use that always remember Krishna. The purpose of any activity, any vidhi, is remembering Krishna, not forgetting Krishna. So that's where the subjective boundary goes. And if you feel like I'm too overstretched, then if you get to that point, then you step back from some of those things. You don't have to trash them, but just step back from some of those things and focus on fewer things until that doing it for Krishna principle is strengthened sufficiently, and then you can allow other things. It's a good exercise because busy people, Krishna gives them service. And they can take on more, and so where's the limit? And that's the response. Okay, I think we'll end there. Oh, you have something?
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. So my question is somewhat related to the topic of today. The question is, sometimes it feels overwhelming with the kind of attachments that we have in life, and it becomes, it sometimes even demotivates us in progress.
Your question is similar to her question. The language is different, but the question is similar to her question. I'm just at commenting. I'm not. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So in those situations, I know it's a how-to question, but it's in those situations it becomes kind of overwhelming and
demotivating.
Yeah, demotivating. So how do we overcome that kind of demotivation?
What's your goal? Or let's say it differently. Supposing my motivation is material, and I'm not getting what I want. So depending on the modes, one can ramp it up and try harder and do more, or one can go the other direction. In the world, I have found people in corporate positions use this word demotivated a lot. I'm not used to hearing it other than from corporate people. Not to say, it's a bad word, but it just goes along with the territory, it seems to me.
Yes.
So, let go of the demotivated word and, go back, hit the reset button. What's motivation anyways? it's yearning. Spiritual motivation is, I'm not there yet, but I'm yearning to be there. And then yearning, as that matures, becomes enthusiasm. And then it becomes spontaneous. So yearning is the beginning of motivation. You have something out there. In spiritual, yearning is very clear. I want to restore my service propensity in relation to pleasing Krishna. If that's it, to the degree that that's not clear, then you get this demotivated language. I've got an objective that's not pleasing Krishna, and I'm not getting the objective, and there's obstacles and stuff that's, in my perception, is just out there. The problem is out there, and now I'm demotivated. It's not spiritual. So, hit the pause button and go back to what does motivation mean anyways? What's a worthy motivation? What's a step that I can take towards that? Now I'm yearning for that. I'm not there yet. That's just, that's spiritual steps. And if I'm not oriented towards spiritual steps, towards a worthy aspiration, spiritual aspiration, then it's, it's all over the place. I want and fill in the blank, and to get what I want, there's a method, and I don't, there's obstacles that stop me from getting what I want, or stop me from doing the way I want to do it, and now I'm feeling demotivated. The problem is out there. Not what motivation is. Spiritual. Material is fruitive. I want something to get something, I have to do something to get something, and there's an obstacle and interference with that doing, and now I'm demotivated.
If I may ask a follow-up question, Maharaj.
Oh, go ahead.
So, when
I'm just speaking principle.
Yes, Maharaj.
The application can be different in different circumstances.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So, when I say motivation, my personal, I would say, whether I don't know if I can call it as a need or a want, is like I would like devotees to be pleased by my behavior or the service that I do. And I guess I don't know if I'm looking for an acknowledgement of that,
what you're
or
looking for.
Yeah, that's where I struggle, that I need to.
Supposing it's not there, you just do it quietly. Supposing it's there. Supposing you have two daughters. Supposing one of those two daughters, they need lots of acknowledgement. You just give them lots of acknowledgement. What happens? They're needy. Without that acknowledgement, they suffer.
Yes, ma'am.
Moment to moment, they suffer. And then throughout life, I'm not being acknowledged. So, as a parent, your business is not just feed that addiction. Your business is to help them understand what's really important. So whether there's acknowledgement or not, what's the purpose of pleasing the devotees anyways? If it's material, then it's one thing, and if it's spiritual, it's Krishna will be pleased. Supposing there's no acknowledgement, but Krishna is pleased. And you know that Krishna is pleased because your consciousness is, I want to please Krishna. I'm not there yet, but that's my I'm cultivating that consciousness. Acknowledgement or no acknowledgement. Here's a real, because you do like book distribution, here's a little example. For Bhadra Purnima, the devotees were, rah, Srimad Bhagavatam says. And some didn't do so well. And some did really well. And some did way beyond their goal. Now, if they're expecting acknowledgement, oh, the devotees were pleased because we went way beyond our goal. That's unwholesome. They should do simply because it's pleasing to Krishna, not just to get some gold stars on their report card. And so, so it's nice to give acknowledgement. And if it's not there, it's quite okay because I know that Krishna is pleased. So move to another platform. And knowing, how do you know that Krishna is pleased? There's scriptural indication of what's pleasing to Krishna. Instructions of Guru according to scripture, that's another confirmation. And now you know that Krishna is being pleased. And then Sanksidhir Haritoshanam. Yea Natma Supra, I'm feeling satisfied. If I'm not feeling satisfied, even I'm doing something that's, I know, scripturally and so forth, is pleasing to Krishna. I'm on the wrong platform. I have to delete some stuff and go back to square one and say, what's the purpose? Okay, pleasing the devotees. But that's part of something that's bigger. One of 5 things. It's increasing bhakti. And when bhakti is increased, that's not a need. If it's there or not there. Some persons praise Prabhupada, some persons, criticize Prabhupada. They weren't acknowledging him. He knew what he was doing. And when praise came, he didn't get puffed up. He gave the credit to his spiritual master when the praise was there, or acknowledgement. It has everything to do with, the mission of life or purpose of life and making that connection stronger. So if there's some sense of demotivated because I'm not being acknowledged by pleasing and serving the devotees, you have to, recalibrate everything from the ground level up.
Sure.
It's not, a reprimand or scolding or something. It's just, it's a reality set.
So,
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki. There's 2. Oh, I'm sorry.
interesting questions. First question is from Democracy, Mataji. She's asking, Narada Muni lives for 1 kalpa. Will there be another Narada Muni in the next kalpa, or will the same one appear, or would he have finished the business with the material world and hence will never appear in the material world?
No idea. Next question.
Okay. Next question. The name is not there. I work corporate. Earlier I was unhappy working 15 hours a day.
Whew.
So scaled back to 8. Still unhappy. Similarly, in personal life, whether dating or single, I remain unhappy. How to be happy?
Read Srimad Bhagavatam. and you'll be happy. Because Srimad Bhagavatam will teach you how to be happy. And if you follow what Srimad Bhagavatam teaches how to be happy, you'll be happy. Yein Atma Suprasidati. Atma, not only prasana, but suprasana. If the concept of life is me-centered, you're not going to be happy. You may seem like, for a while there's a buzz, but it's not what happiness is anyways. And then the other side of duality comes, and it's unhappy. That's not what happiness is, the material, either plus or minus. The spiritual, so how to become happy? Read Srimad Bhagavatam very carefully. Understand what the standard and the process of real happiness is, and you follow it. And then you get there. Srimad Bhagavatam is fantastic medicine for the disease of the heart. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Just to announce the schedule, because there was a question, there are only 2 more public programs left. Tomorrow, which is Wednesday morning, at 7:30 Eastern Time, and then in the evening, 7 o'clock. Wednesday evening,
7 o'clock. Yeah,
7 o'clock Eastern Time again, in the evening, tomorrow. Okay, thank you. The program will start at 6:30. Okay, tomorrow evening.